questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Canadians deserve an affordable life with an affordable budget. However, this Prime Minister is using his deficit budget as a credit card with no limits. And there are therefore surges in housing, groceries and taxes. The Parliamentary Budget Officer stated that the Prime Minister has doubled Justin Trudeau deficits that were already record deficits, a $16 billion deficit higher than what he promised. Why is the Prime Minister using his budget as a limitless credit card by forcing Canadians to make sacrifices? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the 2025 budget is an investment budget, a generational investment budget. It will grow our economy. According to the PBO, this policy is sustainable in the long term.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's multi-generational debt, Mr. Speaker. Canadians deserve affordable groceries. The Prime Minister promised that he would be judged by the cost of groceries. Today, Statistics Canada published its data showing that food inflation is almost double that of the Bank of Canada's targets. It is increasing 40% more quickly than in the States because of liberal taxes. This is a limitless credit card. Does he expect Canadians to pay their groceries with the same magical card? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, I have great news. We're creating jobs and inflation is going down. Inflation has slowed down, and for almost 2 years in a row, inflation is within the Bank of Canada's estimates. We will be reducing inflation we will grow the economy and we will build the future of Canada.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister's costly deficit gambles our future on the national credit card, and it drives up food, housing, and tax bills. In fact, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has revealed in his recent report the Prime Minister has doubled Justin Trudeau's deficit. He's brought in the biggest deficit in Canadian history outside of the pandemic, $16 billion bigger than he promised only 7 months ago. Why is it the Prime Minister breaking his word and forcing Canadians to pay higher inflation today and higher taxes tomorrow for his costly credit card budget?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, today is a good day. Inflation is down 2.2%. It's for almost 2 years. It's running within the Bank of Canada's target. Mr. Speaker, today this is a good month. Unemployment is down again. Jobs are up again. Mr. Speaker, today is a historic day. The Leader of the Opposition and his colleagues have an opportunity to vote for generational investment to build this economy.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Maybe it's a good day for him and his Brookfield buddies who are dodging their tax bills, but it's a terrible day for the Canadian people stuck paying record-high grocery bills. In fact, the Prime Minister said he'd be judged by prices at the grocery store. Today, Statistics Canada revealed that grocery price inflation is almost double the Bank of Canada's target, rising 40% faster in Canada than in the United States of America. The direct result of the Liberal industrial carbon tax on farmers, the food packaging tax, the fuel standard tax. The Prime Minister puts his budget on the national credit card. Does he expect Canadians to pay their groceries the same way?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the rate of inflation is down. Mr. Speaker, job creation is up. Mr. Speaker, ambition and confidence in this country is sky high. We believe in Canada. We are investing in Canada. Today is the opportunity for every member of this House to join us.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He's not investing stay in Canada. He's dodging his taxes by putting his money outside of Canada, while the Canadian people cannot afford to eat, heat, or house themselves. Inflation is now nearly twice the target when it comes to the measurement of food, rising 40% faster in this country than south of the border. We have 100% more people lined up at food banks than in 2019 as the Prime Minister continues to raise taxes on farmers and on food packaging. So once again, the Prime Minister thinks he can put his budget on a limitless credit card. Does he really expect Canadians are going to buy groceries the same way?
Yeah. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again this month, just as it was last month, just as it has been every month when I've been Prime Minister, Canadian wages have grown faster than the rate of inflation. Canadians are getting ahead. We are creating jobs despite the attack on this economy by the Americans, despite by the obstruction of the opposition. This is an opportunity to build our country. The vote is today. Stand up and be counted.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister was right by Surrey the other day handing out tax dollars and donuts in a photo op, but refused to take questions on the 330% increase in extortion that Liberals caused with soft-on-crime laws and open border policies. They've allowed extortionists out of prison by eliminating mandatory prison sentences, and they've allowed foreign gangsters to have visitor visas to kill our people in the streets. Why is it that he had time when he was near Surrey to hand out donuts, but not to stand up and protect Canadians against extortion?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there's an opportunity to stand up and protect Canadians against extortion, against home invasion, against gun crime, against mandatory, against online harm to children. We are putting these legislations in front of this House. The opposition has a chance to support it. We will protect Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Bailleau-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister seems to be in a bit of a precarious spot. Perhaps it's time for him to do some introspection. He claimed that he would quickly eliminate tariffs that have been imposed on Quebec and Canadian products, but they have increased, and even new ones have been added. Will the Prime Minister admit that his strategy has failed? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, Canada has the best agreement with the United States of America. More than 85 of Quebec goods and services, Canadian goods and services that now have zero tariffs. The Honourable Member for Bailleau-Chambly. No one believes that. Absolutely no one believes it. I'm sure the Prime Minister doesn't believe it. After his election, he was also meant to re-establish the principle of free trade. Had he done so, he would not even have to claim that we have the best agreement with the States. Does he agree that his trade agreement strategy with the States has failed? The US President isn't even accepting his phone calls anymore. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, the President of the US has been calling me back because I have his phone number, unlike others in this place, first of all. Now, second of all, today there's the opportunity to invest in Quebec for the projects in Saguenay, in the Matawini mine. With Hydro-Quebec, it's time to invest in the future of Quebec and Canada. Join us. The Honourable Member for Bailleau-Chambly. The Prime Minister seems transfixed on cell phones. In any case, we made 6 requests to the government. Is the government ready to commit to eliminate discrimination against seniors 65 to 75 years of age? Do they commit to increase healthcares to 6% a year? Will they grant credits to young families when they purchase a first house? And maybe if they do that, we might vote for them. The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the budget, we will protect, and the members of this House could protect, transfers for seniors that amount to $80 billion total. Huge investments in Quebec, the biggest investments in culture, and massive transfers for seniors. That is the choice we have to make today with this budget.
For Thornhill.
Spiraling out of control, and they'll do anything to keep Canadians from noticing. Parliament's budget watchdog has found that the Prime Minister is using fiscal tricks just to hide how much money is being wasted here in Ottawa. He says there's a less than 10% chance that the Liberals will meet their own spending targets, the same targets they've blown through again and again. The warnings keep piling up. The waste keeps growing, and the government's commitment to responsibility keeps shrinking. So the real question is, what are the odds that the watchdog gets fired next, just for telling Canadians the truth?
Yeah! L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, it's only Monday, and we already have good news, Mr. Speaker. Inflation is down, employment is up, Mr. Speaker, and we presented to Canadians a generational investment budget, Mr. Speaker. We're going to invest to build this country. We're going to invest to protect our sovereignty. We're going to empower Canadians. Mr. Speaker, we're going to grow this economy the second fastest rate in the G7, Mr. Speaker, because we believe in Canada, and Canadians are going to see whether the Conservative believe in Canada, because today we'll have a vote, and let's hope that we're going to walk together. Mr. Speaker, Canada needs to grow.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Can't afford groceries, they can't afford rent, they can't afford their mortgages, and they want us to support the reason why. I think most Canadians would say no thanks. But back to the parliamentary budget officer. Remember, this is the same watchdog who called Liberal spending stupefying, shocking, and unsustainable. Now he says the government has abandoned any restraint at all. So no wonder the Prime Minister wants him gone. How many more watchdogs, how many more damning reports will it take for this government to stop maxing out the credit card with their reckless spending?
Yeah! L'honorable ministre des Finances.
Mr. Speaker, I know it's a big budget. I'm afraid they may have missed a chapter, Mr. Speaker. Let me help them. Someone told Kevin Page, Mr. Speaker, we serve our nation, and I quote, "We need to focus on economic growth. We need capital investment to boost innovation, improve our infrastructure, and diversify our trade. We live in dangerous times, and we must meet our NATO spending target." I believe Parliament should approve the budget plan, Mr. Speaker. That's the word of a former parliamentary budget officer, Mr. Speaker. We believe in Canada, and let's hope and let's see if the Conservative will support Canadians.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
The parliamentary budget officer rang the alarm on Friday. He tells Canadians there's just a 7.5% chance that this Prime Minister meets his own fiscal promise. The Liberals have twisted definitions so badly, he now recommends an independent expert body to police the numbers, as he uncovered a $94 billion reallocation in the budget. And what is the Liberals' response? Not a correction, but an effort to silence the watchdog. Replace the referee rather than play by the rules. Will the Prime Minister tell Canadians why anyone should trust his fiscal rules when he has no intention of keeping them?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of Parliament for a region that has many small communities. And I can tell you those small communities all across Northern Ontario are looking forward to the investments this budget makes in small and rural community infrastructure, in projects like the Crawford Mine just outside of Timmins that's going to create thousands of jobs, Mr. Speaker. These Canadians, these Northern Ontario Canadians know they have so much to offer, and they are imploring members opposite to vote for them in this evening.
Member for Newmarket Aurora.
Of course, the Liberal government shrugs off their own experts when truth is not convenient to them. One day after the budget drop, Fitch credit ratings rang another alarm, warning that the Liberals' reckless spending is eroding Canada's finances and putting pressure on our credit rating. Budget 2025 blows the deficit up to $80 billion and pushes our general deficit far above the AA credit rating median. They also remind us that the Liberals have a strong track record of breaking every fiscal anchor that they set. How many more fiscal watchdogs need to blow the whistle before this Prime Minister reins in his reckless spending?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Historically, this budget aims to invest not only in infrastructure that typically is covered solely by provinces, but also in health infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, in small communities like Kenora, Mr. Speaker, where communities are waiting for those investments so that they can too have the kind of promise that Canadians in larger municipalities have, Mr. Speaker. And so let me just be clear. In Nipigon, Ontario, Mr. Speaker, where I visited a school food program, we are so excited that program will become permanent. On this side, we know that children need food to thrive. We hope they don't vote against hungry kids.
L'honorable député de Richmond-Arthabasca.
The Honourable Member for Richmond-Athabasca. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What is the Parliamentary Budget Officer's role? He has a clear role in the federal government's transparency. He provides to MPs an independent analysis that is non-partisan on the state of public finances. What does he have to say about the Liberal budget? Investment being misinterpreted. The government will not be able to respect its fiscal targets to reduce the debt to GDP ratio. Are they going to agree with this conclusion, or are they looking to fire the minister, the PBO?
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have an ambitious alternative, and that's Budget 2025 with the best fiscal situation in the G7, the lowest debt to GDP ratio in the G7 countries. We'll also invest in infrastructure to modernize our infrastructures here in Canada, projects to build our country, with various major projects, including Davis in Quebec, with the broadening of the Saguenay shipyard. That is Budget 2025 to build Quebec and Canada's economies. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are always quick to quote experts, but only when it suits them. But here we have the Fitch rating agency, which gives the government its credit scores. It says that the federal finances are a real disaster, but the Liberals have turned a deaf ear. Even the Parliamentary Budget Officer last week sounded the alarm, saying that government spending is unsustainable and shocking. How many more reports from our experts are needed for the Prime Minister to realise that he needs to end his irresponsible spending? The Honourable Minister. Let us be clear. Canada's fiscal situation is enviable. AAA rating, lowest G7 debt to GDP ratio, and they're getting ready to vote against. They are voting against a 20% increase in salary for Valcartier troops. They're going to vote against our troops and the armed forces. How can they vote against this? The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, we'll always agree with what works. What doesn't work is this government, and it's been dysfunctional for the last 10 years. The Parliamentary Budget Officer did a transparent analysis and said that there is less than a 10% chance that the government will remain within its deficit targets. So we know it won't work, Mr. Speaker. On top of this, the government just posted a job advertisement for the position of PBO. Why? Is it because the current one isn't going in their direction? The Honourable Minister for National Defence. Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 has generational investments that seek to rebuild, rearm and reinvest in the Canadian Armed Forces. There was a historic $2 billion envelope for salaries, which will help over 90,000 members of the Armed Forces and their family. Of all branches, there have been salary increases costed at 20% last year. I call upon everyone to support our forces for a strong Canada. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, it's been confirmed by the Parliamentary Budget Officer. Liberal deficits announced in this budget are twice as large as announced because the government is disguising expenditures as investments. I quote the Director, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, the government definition of capital investments is too broad. He even suggests that this subjective definition should be reviewed by independent experts. If Justin Trudeau had used this method, he would have achieved budget balance every other year, and we would have accused him of austerity. In short, it's a sham. Why are the Liberals hiding the real figures from Quebecers? The Honourable Minister for Finance. I'm happy to see that there is smiling among the Bloc MPs. Why? Because there's so much great news for them in the budget. Bloc MPs can go to the Ile de la Madeleine to announce an airport. If they can be there, I'm sure they'll be here for the vote, because I know the people from the Ile de la Madeleine. They watch TV and they will watch the vote this evening. Mr. Speaker, there's even more good news. The port of Saguenay, the Contrecoeur project, many projects that will strengthen Quebec and will invest in healthcare infrastructure. This is a budget that meets Quebecers' expectations. Will the Bloc be for or against? The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the Parliamentary Budget Officer hasn't had a drink of the Liberal budget Kool-Aid. That's normal because it's his mandate to provide non-partisan analysis, and that's precisely why the Liberals want to replace him. They've issued a call for applications to find a permanent replacement who demonstrates, and I quote, tact and discretion. Tact and discretion, Mr. Speaker. They want a discreet PBO, Mr. Speaker, who will apologise for his words before speaking. They might as well ask him to join the Liberal Party. Are they going to do what they did with judges and recruit the next PBO from the Liberal Party? The Honourable Minister for Industry. Mr. Speaker, the reality is that we're not stopping there. So I'm going to add to what my colleague said. My colleague across the way comes from Mirabel. He knows that aerospace is important, so I'm sure that he will defend it with the same fire that he has shown today. He will defend our investments in aerospace, because if he votes against the budget, he votes against the people of Mirabel who are working in aerospace. He'll also vote against infrastructure and health that are so important for Quebecers.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is claiming his massive new deficit spending is an investment in the economy, but Canadians have heard this promise before. In fact, for 10 years under Justin Trudeau, who doubled the national debt, and the results were productivity flatlined, investment collapsed, and business competitiveness fell behind the U.S., which means lower wages and less opportunities for our workers. And now Canadians are hearing that same failed promise from this Prime Minister, who will add $300 billion of new debt over the next 2 years, Mr. Speaker. So why is the Prime Minister repeating a decade of failed Liberal spending promises? What are workers going to get out of it, Mr. Speaker? What is he promising them?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Labour.
Mr. Speaker, what we're promising is the largest infrastructure investment in Canadian history. This will create thousands of good jobs in the skilled trades, Mr. Speaker. But don't take my word for it. Iron Workers of Canada said, when Canada builds, Canadians work. LiUNA Western Canada said this budget will create thousands of great paying union jobs in Western Canada. The Union of Operating Engineers said this budget's a nation-building project representing an important opportunity for workers across Canada. And the Carpenters Regional Council said billions in infrastructure and housing investments have the potential to create tens of thousands of good-paying jobs. Mr. Speaker, why would the Conservatives vote against it?
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals keep insisting that more deficit spending will strengthen our economy, but the data says quite the opposite. Despite doubling the national debt and promising Canadians it was an investment, after 10 years, Canada ranks well below the average in the world's advanced economies in productivity and business research and development investment, which again means lower wages for our workers. And now the budget watchdog is warning that the budget abandons the fiscal anchors that we need to protect our long-term sustainability. So why are the Liberals weakening our fiscal anchors when a decade of their reckless spending failed to deliver any results for our Canadian workers?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Seniors.
They say they are fighting for youth, but they plan to vote against a national school food program. They say they are fighting for families, but they plan to vote against a middle income tax cut. They say they are fighting for workers, but they plan to vote against $75 million in apprenticeship funding. And they say they are fighting for our borders, but they plan to vote against a much-needed pay raise for our service members in our armed forces, including in my riding of Esquimalt at CFB Esquimalt. Canadians want to know who they are fighting for, because it certainly isn't them.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-Lérable. Mr. Speaker, imagine all the things you could buy if you were given a credit card with no limit. And you'd never have to pay off the balance at the end of the month. You could just pass the bill on to your children and your children's children. And that's exactly what this Liberal Prime Minister is doing. A budget in the red that will put generations of Canadians in the red. And there's no such thing as such a credit card like this, except for the Liberals. Well, the Liberals heed the warnings of the Fitch rating agency, which says that the federal finances are at a high risk of further deterioration with this unaffordable budget. It'll increase the cost of living for everyone. The Honourable Minister. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In the budget, I'd like to correct things. There's a tax cut of $800 per family for an average Canadian, and it's a pay increase, unprecedented one, for the men and women of the Canadian Armed Forces, and they received their raise on Friday. It's investment to modernize our infrastructure across the country, increase our productivity, and grow Canada and Quebec's economy. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable-Lotbinière. This budget is an unprecedented deficit. Fitch is not the only one concerned about Canada's public finances. It's the PBO who has raised several concerns about the Liberals' broken promises. There are no longer any limits on Liberal spending. The PM has abandoned all of his fiscal anchors, and suddenly in the budget, this anchor that we've had for 30 years has disappeared without any discussion. No surprise, the Prime Minister wants to fire the PBO. He hates being told the truth. And how many more warnings will it take for this Liberal government to put an end to its irresponsible spending? The Honourable Minister. Clearly, if we don't invest, we need to stimulate our economy, increase our sovereignty and the resilience of our Canadian economy. That's what responsibility is, and I would ask my colleague to support this 2025 budget. Thank you.
Member for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brampton North.
This Prime Minister's costly credit card budget piles today's reckless spending on tomorrow's taxpayers, and the warnings keep getting louder. Fitch, the government's own credit rater, says the Liberals routinely blow through their fiscal anchors and that federal finances run a high risk of further deterioration. And now the budget watchdog is sounding the alarm, noting the government has abandoned its debt-to-GDP anchor, the very metric the Liberals said was key to protecting the AAA rating. No wonder this Prime Minister wants to fire him. How many more damning watchdog reports will it take for this Prime Minister to rein in spending?
That's right. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, on November 4th, we introduced an historic budget to build Canada into the strongest economy in the G7, to build an economy by Canadians, for Canadians, so we will never be reliant on one country again. Mr. Speaker, we are making generational investments in infrastructure, in housing, and in defense, and we will build our economy into the strongest economy in the G7. The members opposite have a decision to make. Will they stand with us and support this budget, or will they force a Christmas election? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Merci. Ma question.
Thank you. My question is for the Prime Minister.
Agree that it is a deficiency in the budget that our legally binding Paris commitments are not mentioned. Can he confirm here on the floor of this House that in passing this budget, the government is committed to holding to as far below 2 degrees as possible, to funding climate adaptation, to delivering on the nature strategy, and continuing to engage in meaningful Indigenous reconciliation?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to thank the Honourable...
I'll have to ask the Prime Minister to start from the top. The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for advocacy of the Youth Climate Corps, which is in this budget and which this House can vote for. Vote for the future of this country. Mr. Speaker, this budget puts us on the path for real results for climate, for nature, for reconciliation. I can confirm to this House that we will respect our Paris commitments for climate change, and we're determined to achieve them. I can confirm with this House that, consistent with our Kunming Montreal commitments, the nature strategy will be released in the coming weeks. We will build this country strong, sustainable, and pure for future generations.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
The Prime Minister said to judge him on the price at the grocery store. Well, nowhere is his failure more evident than baby formula. According to StatsCan, since 2017, baby formula has gone up by 84%. After 10 years of Liberal governments, desperate families are relying on Facebook groups and even buying opened cans of baby formula for their children. Why is the Prime Minister increasing inflationary spending and making baby formula more expensive?
The Honourable Minister for Women and Gender Equality, Small Business and Tourism.
Mr. Speaker, our government recognizes that in order to build a strong economy, we need to ensure that women and girls are safe and have the tools that they need to support and thrive. That's why our government is investing $660.5 million over 5 years, with $131 million ongoing. This includes stable funding to prevent gender-based violence, strengthen women's economic security, and support equality across Canada. Mr. Speaker, when the Conservatives were in power, what they did was gutted women and gender equality at 40%, which saw the closure of 12 regional offices. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we understand that when we invest in women, we are going to...
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Moms want to feed their own children, and they should be able to afford baby formula. Their programs were working, we wouldn't have 1 in 3 kids at food bank lines every single month. We wouldn't have 700,000 kids every single month in food bank lines. And we would not have baby formula as the #1 stolen food product in Canada. Wow. This is because of their failure. So will they end their inflationary spending so moms can afford baby formula?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've taken action to fight food insecurity. Part of the solution is working with our provinces and territorial and Indigenous partners to ensure 400,000 more children get nutritious meals at school every year. That is why this budget will make the National School Food Program permanent. In Canada, no child should wonder at school where their next meal is coming from. When members opposite talk about food insecurity, they should start by voting for the budget.
I was going to give the member a little more time, but she finished her answer, I guess. The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, while families in Kitchener are increasingly using food banks at alarming rates, this government had a chance to lower food prices by scrapping the standard fuel tax. Instead, they chose to increase it by another 17 cents. This increases things like coffee, already up 34%, and beef up 16%. Why does this Prime Minister seem so determined to drive Canadians into poverty by ignoring skyrocketing food prices while he enjoys a luxury lifestyle hidden from the consequences of his own policies?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, last week we came to an agreement with Ontario to continue our work on affordable childcare in that province and all across the country, Mr. Speaker. Families are saving money. But don't take it from me, Mr. Speaker. Listen to this parent from Andrew Fleck Children's Services. We've been able to have healthier meals at home, start saving for post-secondary education. Another parent said we were able to buy a house because of the child care fee reduction. It's made a monumental difference in our lives. Mr. Speaker, if they want to help families, why don't they vote for our budget?
The honourable member for Kitchener Centre.
Mr. Speaker, in typical Liberal fashion, I asked a question on food and I got an answer on childcare, but I'm going to ask again. Why is the Prime Minister not only refusing to scrap the fuel standards tax that's driving up food prices, but actually increasing it? This will drive up the cost to grow the food, package the food, and deliver the food across this country. Does he want groceries to be a luxury item because luxury is the only thing that he knows, while everyday Canadians can't afford to put food on the table?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Family.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess she wasn't listening to this parent from Andrew Fleck Children's Services who said, we've been able to have healthier meals at home and start saving for post-secondary education.
Wow.
But another mother, Mr. Speaker, from the same child care services said, I would have had to quit my job and become a stay-at-home mom, and we would not have been able to afford child care at previous prices. And go, oh, Mr. Speaker, yeah, I know they don't really like seeing women in the workforce, but this mom talked about
the honourable member for Portneuf. The honourable.
Was the member finished? I think. No. I thought the member was finished. The member had like about 4 seconds left. I mean, if the member wants to take 4 seconds. 4 seconds.
coverage that her job afforded. So not everybody has the luxury, Mr. Speaker, to stay at home.
The honourable member for Portneuf, Jacques Cartier. Mr. Speaker, the same generosity I would like to have from you. This Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. For every dollar spent by this PM, it comes directly out of Canadians' pockets, and everything costs more. Groceries, housing, heating. The famous industrial carbon tax is rising up prices for our farmers. It's the cost of food that we're putting on our table that's going up, and there's nothing in this budget to give Canadians any hope or any oxygen. Why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax, which raises the price of groceries? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I think that the Conservative member is somewhat confused, and to help him to see things clearly, all he has to do is ask his colleague sitting next to him, who is the member for the Liberal Party in Quebec, who voted for the carbon price system in Quebec. And this system is not under the federal government. All he has to do is ask his colleague, who is sitting right next to him.
The honourable member for Richmond Hill South.
This Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar this Prime Minister spends is driving up the cost of everything and is paid for by hard-working Canadians. According to the latest data, year over year, chicken is up 6%, seafood is up 8%, infant formula is up 6%, and beef is up a staggering 17%. Food prices are now rising 40% faster in Canada than in the United States. But instead of scrapping the industrial carbon tax and making life affordable, the Liberals doubled down, hiking the tax on farmers and producers, driving up the cost of farm equipment and fertilizer. When will this Liberal Prime Minister finally end his punishing industrial carbon tax so Canadians can afford to put food on the table again?
The Honourable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, while the opposition is busy talking down the economy, we're building it up. Maybe they're too busy to know that what went down is inflation. We're investing in builders and entrepreneurs. I was at the 111 Innovation Zone in Toronto. Young entrepreneurs were thankful that this budget will make it easier to hire Canadians and invest in Canada. Don't take my word for it. Listen to the Canadian Council of Innovators, who say our budget is listening to innovators. I hope the opposition listens as well and does what Canadians want. Build in Canada, buy in Canada, believe in Canada, support the budget.
The Honourable Member for Similkameen, South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government is the most expensive in Canadian history. Every dollar the Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of Canadians, driving up the cost of everything. food prices have risen nearly 40% faster in Canada than in the U.S. The Liberals' answer? Increase the industrial carbon tax. The Okanagan Valley is the fruit basket of Canada, yet taxes on our farms mean the cost of fruit grown in Canada is higher than fruit from abroad. Why is this Prime Minister increasing the industrial carbon tax and making food more expensive?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians elected this new government to deliver on affordable homes and strong connected communities. And I have good news for my colleague from BC. Budget 2025 answers the call with historic investments.
Excuse me. I'm going to ask the Minister to start again because of the noise level around me. I won't. Well, could the Minister take another shot at it, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good news for my colleague from BC. Budget 2025 answers the call with historic investments in affordable homes that will make a difference in people's lives and improving our roads, our transit, our public infrastructure, our community centers, hospitals and schools. And with Build Canada Homes, we are closing urgent gaps and building at a scale unprecedented that brings affordability to all Canadians. Mr. Speaker, every investment is about empowering Canadians and making a difference in their lives with affordable housing and great community infrastructure.
Excellent. The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, Rideau Lakes.
This Liberal government's the most expensive in Canadian history, and everything that this Prime Minister spends comes out of the pockets of hard-working Canadians. Now let's take a look at the Liberal-appointed President of the Nuclear Safety Commission, who's racking up massive expenses for international junkets like $14,000 to Paris. Meanwhile, they're raising taxes on fuel that's going to add 17 cents a litre, and their appointees are taking limo rides. So why do Liberals get limo rides while Canadians get higher taxes from this Prime Minister and these Liberals?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what this government is doing is helping build the best nuclear system in the world. We are building at Darlington. We just put $2 billion into building the first of a kind small modular reactors that will be exported around the world, creating Canadian jobs, Mr. Speaker. That's what we're doing.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands,
What they're
Rideau
doing
Lakes.
is making excuses for a Liberal appointee who raised his travel budget by 85%. Well, Canadians are lined up at food banks in record numbers. These Liberals have seen, under their watch, we've seen food prices rise 40% faster than in the United States. Why is it that every time that these Liberals stand up, life gets harder for Canadians? Canadians can't afford these Liberals. They can't afford that Prime Minister, and they can't afford higher taxes. Why are these Liberals doubling down on higher prices for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, what this government is doing is doubling down on jobs for Canadians. At Darlington, we're building $12 billion, $20 billion of new SMRs, creating 20,000 new jobs, good-paying jobs, blue-collar jobs all across this country. That's what we are doing.
The Honourable Member for Bay of Quinte.
Mr. Speaker, my riding of Bay of Quinte is home to several hundred Canadian Armed Forces members and their families. I know that my constituents, including our brave men and women in uniform, are watching as Canada makes new investments in our forces and work towards our NATO targets. Can the Minister of National Defence then speak to the new defence investments Canada is making in Budget 2025?
The Honourable Minister of National Defence.
Mr. Speaker, in Budget 2025, we're investing over $81 billion to rebuild, rearm, and reinvest in our Canadian Armed Forces. We're making major investments in our people with the largest salary increase, up to 20%, for CAF members in a generation this past weekend. Nearly 90,000 CAF members saw their salaries increase. This is what's in our budget: a pay raise for CAF members, support for CAF members, equipment for CAF members, respect for CAF members. Let's get behind our forces.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Speaker, last week there was deep disappointment with the Prime Minister's actions in British Columbia. While he took a leisurely walk along the beach admiring the White Rock Pier, families in nearby communities were attending vigils and town halls in response to more than 100 extortion cases reported this year, terrorizing the BC Lower Mainland. These families are facing repeated shootings and intimidation, and the Prime Minister deliberately chose to ignore them. Instead of taking leisurely walks on the pier, will the Prime Minister get serious and adopt our Conservative plan to finally crack down on extortion?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has taken many steps to improve the situation of public safety in our country. Mr. Speaker, when the Conservatives vote against Budget 2025, they are voting against more RCMP officers, more CBSA officers. They're voting against a $1.7 billion investment into our RCMP, and they're voting against pay raises for RCMP cadets, Mr. Speaker. Essentially, Mr. Speaker, they're voting against public safety.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Mission, Matsqui, Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals can outline anything in the budget they want, but it's not addressing the problem we have with extortion, where there's been a 550% increase in British Columbia. Business owners are especially scared because they're the ones who are being targeted. The Abbotsford Police, the Surrey Police have already put forward special task force to deal with this growing problem. In the last Parliament, the Liberals had a chance to vote in favour of our Conservative plan to stop extortion, and they rejected it. So on behalf of British Columbians, when are they going to get serious and vote for our Conservative plan to reduce extortion and keep our businesses and communities safe?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Good news, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives have a chance in this Parliament to vote for C2, to vote for C14, to vote for C12. Mr. Speaker, this weekend I spoke to an extortion victim. They told me that it is taking police months and months to get permission from the courts to link their phone number that they're being extorted from to an actual suspect, Mr. Speaker. But lawful access, which is in C2, would help provide the solution to this problem. When will the Conservatives get on board and vote for lawful access measures, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Gateway.
Mr. Speaker, extortion is at crisis levels in Canada, up over 550% in Surrey alone. But the Liberals have done nothing to protect Canadians. Over 6 months ago, they promised 1,000 new RCMP officers to help the situation, but none have been hired, Mr. Speaker. We brought forward legislation to crack down on extortion and keep Canadians safe. They blocked it, Mr. Speaker. When will the Liberals take extortion seriously and support our Conservative plan to keep these criminals behind bars and keep Canadians safe?
The Honourable Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, in this country, extortion is taken very seriously. When extortion is committed, the Criminal Code of Canada has, you could serve life in prison according to the sentence in the Criminal Code of Canada, Mr. Speaker. But what's really important when it comes to extortion cases is solving the extortion before charges are laid. And Mr. Speaker, police across this country are asking for lawful access provisions so they can investigate these cases appropriately. But you know who's against it? The Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. Why won't they give law enforcement the tools that they need to crack down on extortion?
The Honourable Member for Brome, Missisquoi. Mr. Speaker, in my riding of Brome, Missisquoi, many members of my community work in the natural resources industry and in the manufacturing sector. They rely on strong supply chains and infrastructure to buy and sell the goods that they need to support our local economies. The Port of Saguenay is a key example of such a supply chain for Canadian industry, and it benefits all of Canada by playing an important role as a link to catalyze our economy. Can the Minister of Transportation tell us how this year's budget, through its investment of $57.6 million, intends to strengthen this crucial economic link? The Honourable Minister of Government Transformation. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank my colleague from Brome, Missisquoi. Modernizing port infrastructure is essential to stimulate regional economies and productivity and strengthen our national economy. I was happy on Monday to be at the Port of Saguenay with the prefect from Lac-Saint-Jean East and the member for Jonquière from the bloc, and from Lac-Saint-Jean and my colleague from Chicoutimi-Le-Fort to announce a $57.6 million investment for the Saguenay port. It's an essential project for the region and for Quebec, and I hope my colleagues will support the 2025 budget.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians deserve straight answers about how their money is being spent. Public accounts list more than $173,000 in expenses over just 9 days by the Liberal member for London West during her brief time as a government House leader. And Parliament was not even sitting. That is $19,000 a day, even though her publicly documented activities were routine ceremonial stops or partisan events in London, not House leader work in Ottawa. So will the Liberals table a full breakdown for these charges to allow Canadians to understand how is this even possible?
Good job.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, sometimes I wonder if the Conservatives don't just sit on Twitter all day and try and figure out what they're going to say in the House of Commons. Instead of the opposite, Mr. Speaker, these are absolutely groundless. These are absolutely baseless. There are no facts involved in anything the member just said. The member for London West has always taken a prudent and responsible approach to public finances. There was nothing out of the ordinary. No new employees were hired. Salary expenses for employees were normal, and vacation expenses for employees were reported, as is always the case. Case closed, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. Mr. Speaker, people across Quebec are suffering from the housing crisis. Rents have gone up by 16% in 3 years, and homelessness is at an all-time high in our streets, and people are forced to remain in substandard housing because they can't afford to move. And yet the Liberals are prepared to plan new spending that is 6 times higher for the military than affordable housing. Are the Liberals prepared to commit to investing specific and significant amounts of money in cooperative, social, and community housing? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague. We worked in cooperation with my colleagues from the NDP, and what we obtained, obviously, is maintaining the programs that are close to Canadians' hearts. We're talking about childcare programs, nutrition programs for young people, and pharmacare. And most importantly, we're making a generational investment in affordable housing, Mr. Speaker, something that should help all Canadians, and we'll always be here to help people from the middle class. And the first thing we did was to reduce taxes, specifically to leave more money back in Canadians' pockets. Canadians know we'll always be there for them. Thank you.
Et ça met fin.
That brings question period to an end for today.